Oil Country, stand up! We've got Bonnyville, Alberta, Canada's own Tanner the Bulldozer Boser coming in looking Shred City over on the Instagram with his buddy Spencer Jeb, and he's going to be taking on Iwan Cutelaba. And for Tanner Boser, he fought years and years ago back at light heavyweight against Nick Campbell in the Unified 18 main event. And yeah, it's kind of wild to see that out of a guy in Tanner Boser. That's one of two Boser submission wins that he has in that one light heavyweight fight. So for Boser, the little pit stop there, but now he's back. And he's a guy, even in Boser's last fight, you can see it from the graphic, 229. He's slimmed down. He's made all the changes by himself. Did an interview with All-Star MMA and JHK a couple of weeks ago. And I quote this from JHK. Is the PI helping you with the process? And Tanner goes, nah, dude, I just did it. So for Tanner Boser, just doing it. Eating deer meat to get ready for this fight. Now, I know Joe Rogan's big on the elk meat, but Tanner Boser, big on that whitetail.
Joe Rogan cooks the same thing for supper every day and thinks he's like Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
This is the weird thing about this fight. Craig and I were talking before we started filming. This is kind of the perfect fight for Tanner Boser to get introduced to the UFC audience at 205 pounds. And because, of course, we talk about him at the heavyweight division. Normally, he was the smaller guy who would have to rely on his technique, really mix in his kind of crafty wrestling with some of his volume striking on the outside. And that would carry him to a lot of wins against the sort of bigger, not as athletic fighters in that division. Iwan Cutelaba fights a lot like most heavyweights in the UFC. I understand he's a little bit faster. He will have that edge because he's not as big, but he has really good hand speed. There's a lot of big looping combinations, and if things really go south, he can take it to the mat. Tanner Boser...
Not if things go south. Iwan Cutelaba takes it to the mat.
He does, but we've seen him struggle enough in some wrestling situations and grappling situations where I am not sold as Iwan Cutelaba as like the greatest grappler of all time.
Let's reel that fish in.
Let's
break it down. Iwan Cutelaba is a one-round fighter. And if he doesn't get the finish in that first round, it's really hard for him to win once it gets out. And let's break it down. Let's break down his entire UFC career in 2 seconds. He's 5-8-1 in the UFC. Let's go down through it.
But it was round 1 against Walker and he got out grappled, and that's my only point.
Misha Serkinov submits him, so Iwan Cutelaba already at a disadvantage. He's 0-1 in the UFC against Canadians. And if you go down through it, he beats Luis Enrique de Silva, where he does a throat slit and then he rushes across. Gachimrad Antigulov. Glover Teixeira finishes him in the second round. Khalil Roundtree's a first round finish. Devin Clark's the only fight that Iwan Cutelaba has been able to carry things through an entire fight and show a better uptick in cardio, and he beat the bridge of Devin Clark's face up. And Devin Clark, as well as Iwan Cutelaba, share one commonality. Iwan got dropped twice in a Sambo fight against Azamat Murzakanov, and I'm going to talk about that in the next fight that's coming up. But for Iwan, you look at all of these big actions, and if they don't play out, he drops off a cliff. The fight against Dustin Jacoby, 10-8 in my opinion in the first round. Round 2, round 3, he was totally toast. In the fight against Ryan Spann, he goes for everything in the kitchen sink and gets caught up in a wrestling exchange, and the guillotine gets finished. The fight against Johnny Walker gets reversed, gets submitted. The fight against Kennedy, first round was kind of flat for Iwan, and then the second round, Kennedy was able to take over. Iwan's got to go for the takedown early in this fight against Tanner Boser. You look at Boser's...
I think he's going to get tired doing that, honestly.
You look at Boser's last fight, and Boser's takedown defense is kind of tricky, and he trains with a great gym. I mean, Shea Bears, Hayabusa, a training system. But if you look at it for Boser, first takedown attempt by Rodrigo Nascimento, instead of defending it when Nascimento goes for it, he's defending it with punches as he's going down to the mat, and he's still punching once he's down on his back. Hold on. He holds a lockdown with both hands locked and both feet locked to wait for a referee's stand-up as he's on his back, which is troubling against a guy like Cutelaba.
How much does Nascimento weigh and how much does Cutelaba weigh?
Nascimento weighed 30 pounds more than Tanner Boser in that fight.
That's my whole point about that.
But we haven't seen Tanner Boser wrestle at light heavyweight, too.
Okay, we haven't seen him at light heavyweight in this organization, so honestly, none of that... Like, my point is, Tanner Boser, if Cutelaba wrestles with Boser, I think he's going to get tired immediately. I think the footwork and the distance striking of Boser is really going to cause Cutelaba issues. What I do think Cutelaba can have success in is, if he gets Boser up against the cage, go into the Hulk mode that you used to go in. Like, I think if he throws flurries like he did against Gachimrad and Antigulov, he can have similar success because Boser doesn't have an active defense. He will hold his hands up, and he can get hurt by some bigger shots. Now, I'm very curious to see what version of him we're going to get at 205 pounds because this isn't a jump between bantamweight and featherweight where it's only 10 pounds or even middleweight and light heavyweight where you know, okay, it's 20 pounds. Tanner Boser is cutting down, and he will be a massive fighter in this division, and that's the big point I want to bring up. Like, that's why I don't really look that deep into the Nascimento fight because he fought a guy who outweighed him by 40 pounds. Now, he's probably going to outweigh his opponent by at least 10 to 15, so I don't think Boser is going to have those same problems that we have seen in the past with his defensive wrestling.
We're going to see if Boser's able to go out there and if it's going to be like a light up bit of success like a Jared Cannonier moving down in weight, or if it's going to end up like Justin Ledet, who went 3-0 when he started off his UFC career, and then he went out and he lost to Rakic, Cameron, Walker, and Jacoby, and that was that for Justin Ledet, who had hand speed, he had size, he was able to do a lot of stuff with
Boser had a
his
lot more
boxing.
success in the UFC, though, than Ledet.
And Boser was able to do it outside of the organization as well. And he was one of those early interviews when he was over with ACB, with the channel, with Fight Night Picks. So definitely a guy that's been on the radar here with the channel. His boxing's great on the outside. His movement, his hand speed, his level changes, and his leg kicks. All big things to look out for from Tanner Boser in the matchup. He's actually the slight underdog in the fight against Iwan Cutelaba, and I'll update those. Yeah, Cutelaba bit a -125. We have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. Surprised us there to you. Cutelaba went 0-3 in 2021, so he's looking to regain some glory. I'm going to say over-under in this one, Matt. 67.5% Tanner Boser, the underdog.
It's 50-50 to me, so I'll say under.
It's over. It's over. I'm very surprised. 1,070 total votes, 70% Boser, 80% by knockout. For the 30% that have Cutelaba, 52% by knockout. It's a huge surprise to me. Usually the fans on Tapology and the odds kind of run the same way, so when it's different, it's a surprise. Do you have the Canadian in this one?
Ever so slightly. This fight to me is complete pick'em odds. Like, I think the odds will be even by the time the fight night does come around because they are so close right now. But we're going to learn so much about this fight on Friday during the weigh-ins because if Tanner Boser looks like a shell of himself, if he just looks like some husk, I don't think he will. I'm just saying, if that does happen, then I'll be very concerned about how his gas tank's going to hold up because that was the thing that really did make him special kind of at the heavyweight division. He wouldn't get tired. He'd fight at the very similar pace. So I think if he can maintain all those similar attributes, he'll have success in this matchup against Cutelaba. But again, I brought it up at the start for that reason. I think this is the perfect light heavyweight introduction to the UFC audience that Tanner Boser needs.
And I mean, I mentioned Cutelaba getting rocked and dropped twice against Mirzakhanov, a 2012 European Sambo champion all the way, did the damn thing. For Boser, if you do look at it, the weight cut looks great over on his Instagram, 100%. You got to credit the guy for doing that. And when you do consider it for Boser in a matchup like this, will the power, will the speed, will we see those advantages like
I think he wins by decision
at heavyweight?
Tanner
I think
Boser was a big puncher.
I think Cutelaba goes out there, gets a takedown really early and mixes it up and makes it spicy. And for that reason, I like Iwan Cutelaba in the fight. I think another camp at Extreme Couture should hopefully show up and show out, training with fellow Moldovan Sergey Spivak and some of the big guys in that gym. I think it's going to do great things for him. I've been wrong before, not to say I will be this time, but Matt, in this one, we're split on the pick. You're going East Coast to the West Coast with the Tanner Boser pick. I'm going with Moldova's own, the Hulk. Iwan Cutelaba. This is going to be a very contentious pick, I'm sure, down in the comments section. So let us know who you have down below. Big time fights left on this card, Matt. A couple of them left. You're not going to want to miss them. Keep them locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say.
Let's get into it.